All right, guys, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another episode of Between Two Whistles. I am your host, the Coach Plays, Colt, and other co-host right there, decked out in his orange gear. I would never guessed it, Mr. Coach Flat. Coach Flat, how you doing today?
Doing good. How's it going, Coach?
It's going good. It's going good. So we've got a little bit to talk about here in tonight's stream. We've already got 4 people in here watching, so we appreciate y'all being in here. As always, guys, remember to hit that like button and share the stream out. That way this conversation grows. We've got Flat Deal Bill or Flat Bill Deal in here, Heath Monis and Chase T66. Appreciate y'all being here. So we're going to start out this show with the Tennessee Titans getting a big win over the Indianapolis Colts. We talked about it earlier in the week. We talked about how big of a game this was coming up, what it meant to as far as the AFC South standings. And I mean, you talk about going into this game, the Tennessee Titans were 1-10 in Lucas Oil Stadium. And so now the narrative of you finally getting over that hump, and now you've got bigger fish to fry going on forward. First off and foremost, Coach Flat, what's your first thoughts on this big win for the Tennessee Titans?
It's a huge win. Both teams come in at 6-5. Right there at second place in the AFC South. Didn't start off great with the turnover on the first play. Colts go up 7-0. I think we're all thinking, well, here we go again. And the Titans found a way. They dug deep, made some very, very, very big plays, and kind of flipped the narrative that they've had in Indianapolis for years now, which was the Colts always found a way to win. And just when it seemed like the Colts were going to go up 3 and maybe find a way to win that game, the Titans made the big play this time and got out of there with a huge victory.
Absolutely. I mean, when you talk about the way that game started out, boy, it sure did start out just like every other year when we're talking about it. Titans being at Indianapolis Colts. You get a really good run by Derrick Henry, and then he gets 15 yards and fumbles the football, and here we go. We're right down 7-0. And I think every Tennessee Titan fan out there just dropped their heads. We got Catfish Terry in the house. What's up, Catfish Terry? He says, "Hey, Coach. Hey, Shay." Underdog already comes in here with a comment. Ayo, Coach, Titans benching Mariota was the best decision they made all year. And, I mean, the more Tannehill just balls out, I mean, the more that just becomes apparent and apparent. I mean, he had another good game. I thought early on in the game it was, well, I was about to say it wasn't as good, but I mean, he had that big answer drive. Titans, we'll go back over this. Titans go down early 7-0, and then Tannehill leads them on a drive and hits a big one to Humphreys, and they go up and they tie the game 7-7. So, but then after that, it became a defensive minded game. Once again, the struggles on the offensive line just show. I mean, that's probably not going to be fixed until the offseason. I think Tannehill kind of puts a Band-Aid on that stuff with the way he gets the ball out. But I believe they got 6 sacks on Ryan Tannehill, maybe more, but they definitely had 5 at halftime. And then Tennessee Titans went into the half down 10-7, and you're staring at probably another loss for the Tennessee Titans at the Colts. And then we'll get into this topic right now, but I've got this right here for us. But special teams are special, and they were today. What's your thoughts on that, Coach Flat?
Well, that's the play of the season so far for the Titans. I think you can say that equivalently in this game, a must-win game for the Titans. We talked about it last week, and like I said earlier, you're looking at a 3-point looking to have Tannehill put together a game-winning drive for you. Instead, you get the block, recovered for a touchdown, and it changed the whole outlook of the game. I'll be completely honest. My son fell right when the kick was happening. He actually had to have stitches, so I couldn't tell you who picked it up. I just heard the announcers and saw the replay. But, it was a huge play for the Titans. And it set the tone for the rest of that game. It won them the game, and it was the biggest play of the season so far for the Titans.
Yeah, going back to that blocked field goal, I mean, that was already the second blocked field goal of the game. So you're talking about, I mean, some big changing of the momentums right there. But it was Dane Cruikshank who came through, got the block, and then you've got Ty Smith, I believe his name. He filled in at corner this game. So he had a big game. I don't think he was really exposed on defense, and he was the one who was able to pick up that football and run it back to the house, get that Titans the lead, and then they were able to finish the game off. Underdog comes in with a comment that says, "Coming from Miami, 6 sacks is rookie numbers for Tannehill." So yeah, I do believe Underdog is a big Miami Dolphins fan, so he watched Ryan Tannehill a lot. Underdog, I would like to hear your comments on what you thought about Tannehill. Were you a big fan of Tannehill when he was in Miami? What are you thinking about him now? I know Miami Dolphins have been struggling, so I wonder how a lot of fans feel about that, because I know a lot of fans here in Tennessee, they are really loving Tannehill as far as that's concerned. I think that's going to take us into our next uh, topic. You got Tannehill's performance. Coach Flatt, first initial thoughts on how Ryan Tannehill played today in Indianapolis.
Yep. It's never a sexy term, and it's thought to be derogatory at times, but I thought he managed the game very well. But that's not to take anything away from him. The Titans didn't run the offense through him. They didn't have to. He was 17 of 22 for 182 yards, 2 touchdowns. But I'll say he managed the game until that throw to Khalif Raymond, and then he made one of the best plays of the Titans season. We talked about the field goal. That's another one. Just a great throw at a time where I didn't really expect him to take a shot like that. And then you have Khalif Raymond makes the play of his career thus far for the Titans on
Big
the
time.
and just a great all around play for the Titans that really put the nail in the Colts coffin there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I talked to Catfish Terry about this before the show, but normally you see a Tennessee Titans team that when they get ahead, they kind of sit back on their heels and just try to bleed out some clock, and it's really refreshing to see finally a big shot like that. You're up 7, you could it's easy to go with the mindset of let's try to get this clock bleeding, and just try to play some defense. But they call a play. Tannehill takes a shot deep to Raymond, and there you go. I mean, next thing you know, you're up big, and that about wrapped it up at that point. Underdog comes in with a comment. Nah, I'm in Miami, but come from Minnesota and a die-hard Vikings fan. Okay, just watch the Dolphins if Vikings game isn't on. Okay, I see you. I see you. But yeah, no. As far as I'm concerned, I felt like Ryan Tannehill had a really good game. I'm going to try to pull up his stats here just for a second. I thought he was very efficient. I mean, once again, didn't throw any picks. Um, he had that one bad fumble, and I thought that was a pretty bad fumble there because I felt like he got the pressure to come through. He should have been able to sense that, protect the football. But other than that, I mean, I thought Tannehill had a really good game. We go through here. Ryan Tannehill went 17 of 22, 182, and 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Derrick Henry, another big game, 26 carries, 149 yards with 1 touchdown, averaging 5.7 yards a touch. Receiving, A.J. Brown leads it at 3 receptions for 45 yards. Khalif Raymond, 1 for 40 and a touchdown. Corey Davis, 1 catch for 23. But, that's a guy I feel like they got to get the ball more, because his 1 catch was spectacular and a really good run after he was about to get drilled, and the way he protected his shoulder and made a really good play, I thought that was good. Anthony Ferkser, 3 catches, 22. Derrick Henry, 3 for 17. Then it just goes down there. Adam Humphries, 1 catch for 13 yards, but it was a big one for a touchdown. What did you think about as far as Derrick Henry's performance today? I mean, it has to be another good one. He had that one bad fumble to start, but I felt like he came on strong. He had that big 4th down run I mean, we always talk about the head coach and some of the decisions he has made in the past. I thought it was a really good decision to go for it on 4th and 1, and I thought it was a really good play call, and Derrick Henry slips off for about a 12-yard touchdown. What's your thoughts on that and today's performance from Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I thought he played well. He's the best player on the offense. Sorry, that 4 fumbles in the last, what is it, 4 games?
Yep,
Uh,
4 games.
yes, for Derrick Henry. So I mean, he's got to fix that. But other than that, he played well. But I mean, you continue to see a theme that really irks me with the Titans, and it happened. I guess it was about just under 5 minutes left in the third quarter. Kevin Byard gets an interception, sets the Titans up inside the 20-yard line, and the Titans, for some reason, go wildcat Derrick Henry, and get to a 3rd and long, 3rd and 8. They throw it away. They end up getting a field goal to tie the game. But the Wildcat, they go to it each week. It's rarely ever successful, and it's a formation that the higher level of football you play, the less successful the formation is. It's an atrocious formation in professional. And I don't know why the Titans continue to go back to the well on the Wildcat. If you're playing little league, middle school, even high school football, the Wildcat can be an effective formation, but in the NFL, it very seldom works. I thought that was a very disappointing drive that the Titans had. I think that's the only thing with Derrick Henry that the Titans do, is take him off the field on critical 3rd downs and use him in the Wildcat that they could do a little bit better, because when you put Dion Lewis in the game, you are effectively telling the defense that here is one player that we are never going to use that cannot, affect your defense. So worry about everybody else. And they say that they take Derrick Henry off the field for pass protection a lot of times, but Dion Lewis is horrible in pass protection.
Yeah,
So
I remember one of those sacks came solely on a Dion Lewis. He tried to take the knees out of a player, looked like he just flopped right on the ground, and then next thing you know, Tannehill's on his back. So
it's not the first time that it's happening. It won't be the last. So. And when Derrick Henry does catch the ball out of the backfield, even if it's just on a dump off, he's shown to be dangerous when he does that. So I just Dion Lewis, we talk about it each week, but if they can get rid of him, they'd be a lot better off.
All right, so as we get ready to get into the next topic, Coach Flatt, if you could find these stats, I don't have them, about the AFC South standings, but we're going to get in and we're going to talk about AFC South standings now and how big of a victory this was for the Tennessee Titans coming in. Tennessee Titans coming into this game was 6-5. The Indianapolis Colts were 6-5. You were staring at the Houston Texans at 7-4, and I'm believing. I don't know exactly what the Jags are. Do you know what the Jags?
They're 4-8 now.
4-8 now. They had a big loss. They really got blown out. You can basically pretty well say Jacksonville Jaguars are out of it.
Yeah.
They're not going to get that many losses. There's just no way. So Jags fans, if anybody's watching from Jacksonville, sorry to hear that, but not really sorry. But yeah, so 6-5 Tennessee Titans and 6-5 Colts. It was going to be a big one. So the Titans find a way to get to 7-5. Colts will slide down to 6-6. Colts by no means are out of it. They're a team that can still win a lot of games, and the Titans are still a team that can lose games. And then the Texans have been up and down. And I've got the TV on right now. You've got a big game going on between the New England Patriots and the Houston Texans. That game is tied right now at 0, and the Patriots are approaching midfield. So every Tennessee Titans fan, I know there's probably not a lot out there who wants to root for the Patriots, but all Tennessee Titans fans need to be going ahead and rooting for the Patriots. Get them at 7-5, because now you're looking at them being tied for the division, and the Tennessee Titans in the last 3 weeks of the season play the Houston Texans twice. So Tennessee Titans, big win today, but they hold their own destiny, but they've got some big games coming up that they're going to have to win. What's your thoughts as far as the AFC South standings are concerned?
Yeah, I mean you hit it on the head. You know, if the Texans lose to New England tonight, you're looking at a tie um, for the division. You still play the Texans twice. If you get to a tie, if you
Look at this. We've got Coach
I,
White coming in here with the comment. Coach White, we appreciate you having on. Yes, this is real life. We are talking about the Tennessee Titans and the Indianapolis Colts game. We'll also hit on your Tennessee Vols beating up on my Vanderbilt Commodore soon. So if you want to stick around for that, and you are always welcome to join the show. I can have up to 6 people on this bad boy. So we appreciate having you around here, Coach White. Don't be a stranger. All right, Coach Flat, you can continue on the AFC South.
yeah, if you play them twice and if you win both of those games, you're probably going to win the division. But you could easily be looking at a situation like the Titans were in last year, coming into Week 17 with a chance to go to the playoffs. If they win that game, it could be a playoff berth. If they lose, it could be going home. So, you know, we'll see what happens. But they're right there in the midst of it, 5-1 since Tannehill took over, and I don't think there's many teams in the NFL right now that want to see the Titans. They're red hot.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans are pretty hot right now. Like the Carver Family Fishing has a comment right here, says it's in our control right now, and I mean that's it. Titans went out; they'll be the AFC South champions, and I don't know the last time I could tell you that. I think that would have to go back to that 13-3 season with Chris Johnson we had, but that'd be a big time victory for the Tennessee Titans. But they got a long road before we start talking about that. They have the Oakland Raiders next, if I'm not mistaken. They took a big L today to the Kansas City Chiefs. They'll come back. They'll come hungry because they're not out of the playoff picture yet. As far as wild cards are concerned, Pittsburgh Steelers got a big win over the Browns. So that kind of, if you was a Titans fan, you would have liked to seen the Steelers lose. But I mean, as of right now, the Titans need to be thinking about the AFC South because it's right there for their chance to finally take it with 2 games in the last 3 against the Houston Texans. So, all right, before we wrap this up and we get on to our next topic, unless y'all just want to cancel that next topic, I'm totally fine with that. Final thoughts on the Tennessee Titans 31-17 victory. Coach Flat, the floor is yours.
I think we hit it on the head. We got the Raiders next week. It's a huge game for the Titans. Carver Family Fishing says Henry 1,000 yards back-to-back years. Good accomplishment for him. I think 1,000 yards is not what it used to be in the NFL. I mean, you're just talking about 60, a little over 60 yards a game, so it's not that impressive, but still a good feat to hit. If you're not hitting 1,000 yards, you're not doing something right, especially if you're the feature back the way he is. But yeah, it's another good season for Henry. If he can finish with 12, 13, and maybe even get up to 1,400 yards on the season, it'd be fantastic for the Titans, but it'd put them in a tough situation going forward with the contract coming up this year. But yeah, the Titans are right there. They're 7-5. We talked about it last week about how they, have to continue to win each game and take it one game at a time. That's what they're doing. And I'd say they'd be favored this week against Oakland. And then you're looking at 8-5, 13 games in with the Texans, then the Saints, and then the Texans again. So they're right there in the midst of it, and you can't ask for anything more going down the stretch here.
And you said the record right there. What's a possibility after next week? 8-5. Right now the Titans are 7-5, but 8-5. What were the Titans? Were they 2-5 at one point?
2-4.
What's that?
2-4.
2-4, and then the quarterback change, and then next thing you know, I didn't think the way that season started. I did not think so. The Titans fans, they've got a lot to be happy about right now. The Carver Family Fishing. Let's get to a couple comments here. He comes in with Henry 1K yards back-to-back years, and that is big. And I mean, he is starting to really run. And actually, I was just about to talk about this. Cleet Nippa comes in with a comment: do you pay Henry or let him walk? And I think the more and more every week goes on, I don't see any fashion you can let him walk. And I think that, unfortunately for the Titans, but great for the Titans, I think that price tag's going up. Coach Flatt, you want to hit on that?
Yeah, I think it comes down to the price tag. I mean, there's nobody that cheers for the Titans that would tell you that they don't want Derrick Henry to be back with the Titans next year. That's not the issue. But there was nobody that was a Giants fan that didn't want Odell Beckham to be back with the Giants. I mean, it happens with players. They might think that they're worth a little more than the organization does. So we'll see where the Titans fall with that. But if the Titans, I'm telling you, if the Titans continue to use him as a two down back and they're not going to feature him on third down, they're going to take him off the field on critical third downs, anything more than 3rd and 4. They're going to put Dion Lewis in the football game. They're basically telling the fan base they do not believe that Derrick Henry is a feature three down back in the National Football League, where Derrick Henry is going to say, well, I ran for 12, 13, 1,400 yards, whatever it may be. I need the same type of money that Ezekiel Elliott, Todd Gurley have gotten. And then that's when you find yourself in a huge dilemma. And he's going to shoot for that. And then, if the Titans are willing to pay him $9 million a year, then they could probably settle for that. But the problem would come if the Titans believe he's worth 7 and he believes he's worth 11, 11 and a half. You're so far off. It'd be hard for them to, come to an agreement if the Titans stick to that number. So I don't think that it's a guarantee that Derrick Henry will be back with the Titans next year. It all just depends on what Derrick Henry and his agent think that he's worth, and what the open market thinks that he's worth compared to what the Titans do.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I don't think it's any guarantee because, like you just said, the Titans might be thinking of one number and then Derrick Henry's thinking of another. And I don't know what the franchise tag would be for a running back, but we also might find us in a situation where the Titans might have to decide, do they franchise the running back or do they franchise the quarterback and try to keep Tannehill for one more year and to see, how that's going to go. But then, I mean, that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother show. It's I mean, you're talking about topics that we're gonna have to get into because when you're talking about uh, Derrick Henry and you're talking about Tannehill, you're talking about two key pieces to the Tennessee Titans right now. That without them, I don't think this team is where they're at right now. So we'll get to that topic for another one. Random Gaming comes in with the comment, Titans won. Yep, that's it, Random Gaming. The Tennessee Titans win today with a score of 31-17, getting them that much closer to the AFC South champions and getting them that much closer to the NFL playoffs. Underdog comes in with a comment, I get the Arian Foster vibe from a Henry. So, yeah, I mean, Henry's running well, man. As always, guys, when you come in this show, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. That way you keep up with the content and share the show. That way we keep this conversation growing and it just gets better and better every time. All right, so we're going to kind of change our topic here. Coach Flatt's going to be smiling a little bit. I'm probably not going to be smiling as much, if at all. Tennessee Vols beat the Vanderbilt Commodores with a score of 28-10. I will say Vanderbilt covered and won me a little bit of money. So I'm happy with that, So I don't know why I betted on Vanderbilt, but that's another discussion for another day. I guess I was trying to give them good juju. But so Tennessee Vols beat Vandy 28-10, advance their record to 7-5, become bowl eligible. Vanderbilt goes to 3-9, whatever that record is, and digs himself about 6 feet deep under. So the floor is yours, Coach Flatt. What's your takeaway from the Tennessee Vols and the Vanderbilt football game?
Yeah, obviously the weather played a factor in this game. You see Tennessee's air attack, which has been very lethal in the past few weeks, was really grounded in the game. Garantano starts 0 for 7 in the game. He finishes 6 for 17 for 120 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. The interception on the first drive of the game, and Vanderbilt ends up getting 3 points out of it. And not the
3
start.
points, but 100% a win for the Vols at that point. Vanderbilt had to find a way to stick that into the end zone with a
Yeah,
short field, and they could not do it.
if they were going to win that game, they needed to definitely put the ball in the end zone there. But the story of the game, and we're going to talk about this in a minute here with the breakout player for the Vols, was Eric Gray, the true freshman out of Memphis. He had,
He had really two big plays. He had a good night overall, but two big plays that completely just broke the back of Vanderbilt.
Yeah, he had a huge game, and we'll talk about that. But I didn't think Tennessee played particularly well overall. I thought the defense played all right. Um, the offense was very vanilla, but again, a lot of that comes back to the weather. I you know I try to take my orange tinted visor off here, but I really think if this game is played in good conditions, that this is a much larger spread in this game. But Tennessee did what they had to win the game and get the win and get to 7-5. And now for them, the wait is on to see if they somehow get the Outback Bowl. Still probably unlikely there. I think the Gator Bowl is more likely, or Tax Slayer Bowl as they call it now. And then some other possibilities in there as well. So Vanderbilt, and we'll talk about this too. You go to 3-9. They've said that they'll retain Derek Mason. A lot of turnover within the conference. Even today, we just saw Matt Luke fired about 30 minutes ago at Ole Miss. So we'll
That's
see
some
if
breaking news there. I did not know about that. Ole Miss firing their head coach.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see if Vandy sticks to their word with Derek Mason and they do retain him. But for Vandy, it's back to the drawing board for Tennessee. They break the 3-year streak of Vanderbilt controlling the state's biggest game, and get back to the way things used to be. So, big win for Tennessee and a win they absolutely had to have.
Yep, and I'll hit on a couple of those topics you talked about. Some of those we'll talk about here in a minute. Random Gaming, real quick, comes in with a comment. What if the Texans lose tonight? Will the Titans be the leader, or will it be the Texans still be the leader? I don't know exactly who or what. It really don't matter. At the end of the day, they're going to be tied with the same record. I mean, it could be the Titans, it could be the Texans, but the biggest thing that matters is if they lose tonight, get them with the same record, and then the Titans got them coming up 2 games in the last 3 weeks. So you really put yourself in a driver position to be able to take over that division. Score update on that game right now is New England Patriots 3, Houston Texans 0. Houston Texans are at midfield and driving at the moment. But going back to the Tennessee Vanderbilt game, unfortunately, I was there. I was supporting my wife. She has went to the past 2 Vanderbilt and Tennessee games in Nashville. So went with her and her family. I knew what I was walking into, 100%. And you hit on as far as you believe that you were saying trying to take away your orange and white clothes, that you felt like if it was bad weather, you would have thought the spread would be much bigger. I 100% agree with that. I've watched every game of the Tennessee Vols this year. I've watched every game of the Vanderbilt Commodores. Vanderbilt is really bad. They are a really bad football team this year. Tennessee has gotten better throughout the year. And I 100% were, while I didn't want to sit in a downpour, I was welcoming the rain because I thought that was going to be a really good chance for Vanderbilt to find a way to make a game out of that. Unfortunately, one of my plans as far as that game was being concerned was I was hoping that a Keyshawn Vaughn would be able to find success in a rain game and they could be able to ride on him, because all year this Vanderbilt football team was not a good team. A lot of reasons due to horrible quarterback play and not in a very young defense that is apparent. They've got a lot of growing up to do, and they struggled all throughout the year. When you talk about any success of Vanderbilt having, it was always the big 3, Kalaje Lipscomb, Jared Pickney, and Keyshawn Vaughn. Well, 30 minutes before the game, it breaks out. Jared Pickney hurt his wrist sometime Tuesday earlier in the week. He's out for the game, so that was already not good. I would say he probably could have went. I'm not in that building, but I think he was making a future decision there, probably saying, I'm going to step out, make sure that I'm ready for the NFL, for the Senior Bowl, NFL Combine, so on and so forth. And then Vandy gets a big turnover to start the game. You're thinking, okay, we've got a chance here to get up early. Once you get up early, anything can happen. And very first play, Keyshawn Vaughn goes down with an injury. He's out for a few plays, few series, comes back in, tries to make it work, and you tell they shut him down, whether that was his decision or Vanderbilt decision. More likely was a decision based on his future, and I 100% don't have an issue with it. When Vanderbilt was as bad as they have been all year, I made the comment that I thought Keyshawn Vaughn should shut it down because he's got a big future ahead of him.
They did say at halftime, I know you were there live, but they did say that Derek Mason had said that it was his decision to sit him down and that Vaughn wanted to play.
Okay.
So Derek Mason felt like it was best for his NFL future for him to play, but the kid wanted to continue.
Okay, well that makes me feel good. That makes me feel great. You like to hear that the player was wanting to do that, and I gain a little bit of respect for Derek Mason to do that because while yes, that's a big game, ultimately I think Keyshawn Vaughn still doesn't win that game for Vanderbilt. I mean, he still doesn't. He's got bigger fish to fry. He's going to be playing on a lot of Sundays to come, so he needs to be able to protect his body and make that money in the NFL. But ultimately, when he went down, I mean, I think all your chances of a Vanderbilt Commodore upset went down with them, and Tennessee's defense did a really good job of stifling up that offense, which is not very hard because that offense has been total trash all year. I did like what I was seeing. For some reason, the Tennessee Vols thought they'd come out in horrible conditions and still could throw the football. And Garetano started out 0-7, and I knew eventually they would get down to the ground game. And once they did, they figured out that they could out-muscle Vanderbilt in the trenches. That was really all you wrote. And then the two big runs really crushed them. I mean, you take those two big runs out, and you would have been able to maybe have a game. You could have forced Tennessee to do some long drives and maybe force some turnovers, but those two big runs really crushed them, and we're going to go into that. We'll let Coach Flatt hit on this topic, but the standout player had to be the freshman running back, don't you think?
Yeah, Eric Gray was no doubt the story of this game for Tennessee. He comes into the game with just over 200 yards on the season. He was the third leading rusher on the team behind Tim Jordan and Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler did not see a touch in this game. I don't think he saw a snap. So, maybe an injury that we don't know about there. I'm not sure what that issue was. But nonetheless, Ty Chandler was given an opportunity. He breaks a 56-yarder when they're down 3-0 to make it 7-3. They're up 14-3, and he breaks a 94-yard touchdown run, which goes down as the second longest run in program history. And when the
longest run of a SEC freshman running back.
Yep. And then when the Vols go up 21-3, that game is over.
Yep.
And they go into halftime up 21-3, and that was pretty much all she wrote. Eric Gray, like I said, comes into the game just over 200 yards on the season. He finishes just shy of 250 for the night. 25 carries for 246 yards and 3 touchdowns. So Tennessee gets in the end zone 4 times. 3 of them are from the freshman. And, he had a fantastic day. He's a kid out of Memphis. He was a 3-time Mr. Football in the state of Tennessee. He broke a state record, 138 touchdowns in high school. And he was an explosive, highly recruited kid for Tennessee. And it was really good to see him have a breakout night towards the end of his freshman year. Um, I do want to touch on, Cleat says, and we'll talk about this. I was going to ask you as well. How was your experience first time at the other UT? First of all, it's not the other UT, it's just UT.
I
Tennessee,
mean, that's up for that's up for
University
debate.
of Tennessee was founded almost 100 years before the University of Texas. So they were there and planted in 1794. So UT, how was your first experience on the hill in Knoxville?
Uh, it was overall it was a good experience.
Weather obviously probably made it kind of iffy.
Yeah, that definitely sucked. The weather changed a lot of the atmosphere. They canceled the tee, so they never ran out through the tee due to the weather because they had to get that game kicked off. Uh, Overall, I mean, it's a
They did
big
it for the
stadium. It really
seniors. Is that right?
what
They did it for the seniors, though. Is
He
that
did it
right?
for the seniors, but that's a little bit different than the whole team running through.
Right.
Uh, but it's a big stadium. Um, it didn't really look that big from the outside, but then once you get in, the field goes down, stands go up. It's got a lot of seats in that stadium, and the first thing I did take away from it was there wasn't, it wasn't a sold out crowd. The weather had a lot to do with that also. But start of the game, it's pretty loud in there, and you could tell where you get 110,000 people in there. If it's sold out, that's a very rocky place, and that would be a hard place to play in. So overall, I mean, it was a good experience. You can tell that stadium is old.
Yeah.
You can tell that stadium
On
is.
the south side, I don't know if you were on the south side, but yeah, towards the river,
Yeah,
uh, is where they're about to do a lot of renovations over there and try to make that a little bit better. But it's very very old looking
they
over there.
definitely need some renovations. Because I remember always going to Vanderbilt football games. I would hear complaints from Tennessee fans talking about, oh, how bad the restrooms are and how bad the concourses are. And there's a lot of those same complaints in Knoxville, too. Those bathrooms are bad
If
and
you sit on
concourses are tight.
if you sit on that side of the stadium, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And that's usually where I sit. So um,
Probably the cheapest
yeah,
side you can sit on. So
yeah. It's bad. They updated the other side a few years back. There, I think by 2022 or 23, they're going to have the whole thing renovated. So hopefully that'll improve the concourse area. But glad you had a good time.
we did
Um,
get to move down also. We moved down about 3 rows from the end zone on the north side. Actually, when I believe his name's Ty Smith bust off that 94-yard run, he was running right at me. We was just 3 rows from the end zone. I thought about giving him the double bird salute, but you know, we're here on the Coach Plays. We're a family channel. We don't need to be doing that stuff. But trust me, every ounce of Vanderbilt being in my body was about to give them the double bird, but that's for another discussion. Random Gaming comes in. Texans just got an interception at the 8 to 10 yard line. Uh, he says the Texans have scored. I just seen it. Texans are up 7-3 for all you Tennessee Titan fans out there are concerned. So, all right. So we're going to go ahead and get into another topic. We're staying in within this same topic though. Bowl game for Tennessee. What's your first thoughts? What are you hoping for? What do you think will happen, Coach Flat?
I'm hoping for a marquee matchup. I'm hoping for the Outback Bowl. I'd like to see Tennessee play Michigan or Penn State. If
I would
possible.
love to see some Penn State. I would root for my old Vanderbilt boy and James Franklin. That'd be a great game.
I think it's a little unlikely, unfortunately. I think that the Alabama loss to Auburn hurt the chances of them going to the Outback Bowl because you push
Yep.
one SEC team out
I
of a
know
bowl.
the Belk Bowl and the Music City Bowl were in attendance for this Vanderbilt and Tennessee game.
Yeah, it pushes Alabama's loss to Auburn pushes one out, so it kind of in effect you could look at it a way of pushing every team down a bowl game if you want to look at it that way. Um, I've seen that the Gator Bowl, the Tax Slayer Bowl, has made it known, I guess, that they want Tennessee We'll see if they're able to get it. You mentioned the Belt Bowl and the Music City Bowl as possibilities. I think those would be the other two. But I think if you're in the Gator Bowl, I think that might be the most likely spot for Tennessee. And you're looking at maybe, you could see a Michigan there. You can see a Minnesota, an Iowa, maybe an Indiana, someone like that. If you're talking Music City, you could go a whole lot of different routes. It could be a Big Ten or an ACC
An
team.
Iowa Tennessee game would be a good one to watch. I think that would be a good game.
Yeah, I'm sure Iowa might want to play Tennessee again after they played them in that same bowl game a few years back, and Tennessee won that game going away very easily. So Iowa might want to rematch in that one. I'd personally like to see Michigan or Minnesota to give the Vols a little bit better of an opponent, a little bit higher caliber opponent in the Big Ten. But we'll
Yeah,
see.
I want to see them with a higher caliber opponent because I would like to see them finally end on a sour note. They've had a lot of good going for them, but either way, they're probably going to have a good game. But so I would like to see them with a pretty good opponent there for their bowl game. That's for sure. A Penn State one would have been great, but Penn State, I mean, I don't know exactly their record, but don't they still have a chance at the college football playoffs with how many people are losing right now? Or do they
No,
got 2 losses?
they've got two.
That
They
pretty well
lost
takes them out.
Minnesota and Ohio State. So they won't play for the Big Ten title, so they're out of the
Yeah,
playoff.
they're out.
Yeah, they're out of the playoff mix. It just depends on whether or not um, they go to New Year's Six. I think the only way Tennessee plays them if they somehow get the Outback Bowl. But I think that I think you may see Auburn versus Penn State in that game. So we'll see.
Which that would be a good game as well.
Yeah, it would. It would be a very good football game. So we'll see where Tennessee falls. Like I said, I think the most likely spot is the Gator Bowl, and but we'll see. There's a lot of different opponents that they could play there. I think.
I think one comment out there, uh, someone and I this would never happen, but it would be an incredible game. I would love to watch it, and I'm sure a lot of Memphis fans would love to have their shot. But I seen someone saying, "Put them in the Liberty Bowl and have Memphis versus Tennessee." What's your thoughts on that one?
Well, I would welcome that matchup. Um, I think that we'd love to go into a very important recruiting ground in Memphis, in this state, and paint the Liberty Bowl orange. And um, you
You
know,
might get too much than you can chew for, though. I mean, Memphis is a good football team right now.
very explosive offensive football team. It's I'm not taking them for granted at all. But I think that'd be a very, very exciting game for the state of Tennessee. I think that one was a lot more likely if Vanderbilt had found a way to win against the Vols,
Yeah,
and the Vols finished 6-6.
6-6.
I think that matchup becomes a lot more likely with Tennessee at 7 wins, and potentially looking at maybe probably being the sixth selection out of the SEC. They're gonna be too hot of a commodity with the other bowl games that pick before the Liberty Bowl. Um, like for instance, if they even fell to the Music City Bowl, I don't see any way in the world that Nashville passes up on the opportunity to have the Vols there playing in the Music City Bowl, because
I
that
agree.
would be an instant sellout for Nissan Stadium. So
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we're gonna kind of move on. Random Gaming says, "I am so mad that Alabama lost. I am an Alabama fan. Honestly, the refs made so many bad calls. I mean, at some point, you got to not blame the refs, and you've got to win a football game. I did see, Saban was a little frustrated with how some things went down, but I thought Saban was just crying a little bit too much, if you ask me. Cleet Nippa comes in with 10 SEC schools are bowl eligible, and that he loves the way Memphis plays offensively.
yeah, their offense is great. As far as Alabama, I didn't get to watch. I watched it on commercial breaks for Tennessee Vandy. I know it's a huge game, but if the Vols are playing, that's always going to be my primary focus. Um, but the game looked incredible. They gave the updates on the Tennessee game, so even if I was on that, they showed every touchdown. Um, I thought that Saban and Alabama got schemed by Malzahn at the end of the game.
with the
Uh, with
fake
the
punt.
they subbed the punter in at wide
Yeah.
receiver, and Bama runs the punt team on.
As
Um,
breaking news, Tom Brady just scrambled for about 20 yards or so. So that's breaking news. I had to tell our viewers on a Tom Brady scramble of 20 yards. Continue.
but I thought it was brilliant by Malzahn and Auburn. They catch Alabama in an illegal substitution, a 5-yard penalty ends the game. Um, Saban, as you said, was very upset about it. He said it was unfair, but it reminded me of something that Nick Saban would do, or Bill Belichick would do. It's these little nuances that teams are starting to find that you're going to have to adjust to. I mean, I thought it kind of surprised me a little bit that they run the punter only onto the field and Alabama falls for it. You think maybe they'd have somebody looking for the long snapper,
You would think so.
but they got them with it. I thought it was great, and credit to Auburn. They found themselves in the perfect opportunity to use that 4th and 4. It couldn't be more perfect because if you catch them in it, you get the 5 yards, and they hit it and they won the game. So you go back to the field goal miss was huge, but there's really no excuse for you could talk about Tua being out and all that, but they put up enough points to win a football game. There's no excuse that an Alabama team should give up that many points to that Auburn team. I know Bo Nix gets a lot of hype and a lot of publicity, but
Which I do think Bo Nix is going to be a pretty good quarterback, and I think Auburn's future is looking bright.
he's not been someone, as I've watched Auburn throughout the year, that I think should set the world on fire against Alabama. Is he going to be a great football player? He absolutely is. Is he a great football player right now? In my opinion, no. Their offense right now is not that great, but Gus Malzahn is a great, great offensive football coach, and they have continuously got better throughout the season on offense.
He definitely saved his job with that win last night.
And as a team. So it's a huge, huge win. Like I said earlier, you could be looking at an Outback Bowl for them against Penn State potentially, and for Alabama, you're looking at a bowl game that nobody inside that Alabama locker room is going to frankly care much about because best case scenario they're in a New Year's Six bowl, like the Sugar Bowl or something else like that. And worst case, you're maybe looking at Alabama playing for the Citrus Bowl. So
And they won't give two craps about that bowl game.
not a chance. So if you're a gambling person, Alabama's bowl game and their opponent could be.
Yep, go to the opponent probably, depending on that spread.
So
all right, so we're gonna hit on our last topic before we wind this thing up, or we'll after this topic we might give the floor to a couple of our viewers and see what their final topics are. But future for Vandy, I'll hit on this. Cleat had it in a comment earlier. Do they fire their coach? I think they will not. We talked about this with Coach Flatt, but a couple weeks ago, the AD comes out and said that it's not as much as look at the coach, but look at what the coach has. He has came out and said the coach will be the coach for Vanderbilt next year, that they got to upgrade the facilities. They got to upgrade all the resources that the coach needs. And while all that stuff is true, I'm still kind of on the disagreement. I mean, when you look at Missouri firing a coach who's 26 and 26, who's actually an alma mater of Missouri, then you get the breaking news of Ole Miss firing their coach, Arkansas firing their coach. These are all programs that are firing their coaches because they're losing people, they're losing fans in the stands, they're losing games, and they're not going to stand for it. And then you look back as a Vanderbilt football team this year that finished 3-9, just atrocious, hard to watch this year, did not get better throughout the year. And their big win was against a Missouri team that luckily the only reason why they won that game was they changed their quarterback. Quarterback played really well, got him a lead early. Then the quarterback gets hurt. He's out for the year, and they somehow hold on to that game. Other big wins, ETSU and Northern Illinois. Yep, bring him back. Bring the coach back. He's a stud. Bring him back. So I don't know.
I guess as a Vandy fan, you go into 2020 with Derek Mason, you lose Keyshawn Vaughn, you lose Kalisha Lipscomb, you lose Jared Pinkney, off an offense that already wasn't very good at all. Do they make a coordinator change?
You 100% have to. If you keep Derek Mason, it's got to come out tomorrow that he has fired the offense coordinator, and maybe he should honestly. I don't know. I'm not as out on Jason Tarver, but if you're gonna fire him, it just needs to be Derek Mason take over the defense. But the offense has got to be what changes. I think the defense reason why they had such a bad year this year. I think they were very young. They're going to return all 11 starters next year. They've just got a lot of growing up to do. When I was there at that game and three rows from the field, it's apparent Tennessee's just bigger in the trenches than Vanderbilt is, and they're a young team. They got to grow. They got to get bigger, and they got to get better. So I give the defense a little bit of pass with how young they are, but the offense, you have those three guys, even with a new quarterback, which was a grad transfer from Ball State. So he should have been able to patch up some things. It's not like you were playing a true freshman all year. It was not good. So the OC's got to go. I expect him to go. But, I mean, I don't even know if that fixes it because then at that point, who are you going to hire when you interview an OC? You're going to say, "Hey, come to Vanderbilt, be an OC," and then the OC could honestly ask a question. Well, how many more years are you going to be here? And that's the issue I have with it. I think that it probably would have been better for Vanderbilt just to say, you know what, why 100% I agree with. You don't need to just point the fingers at the coach. The resources have to get better. There's renovations they need to make to that stadium, renovations they need to make to the weight room, and they've got to catch up. And while I do believe the AD is going to bring that to Vanderbilt, I just think it probably would have been for their best favor to just go ahead and go to a different path. I think Derek Mason is a great coach. I think he's going to be a great defensive coordinator wherever he goes. I've seen one statement that apparently Nick Saban said that if he's not at Vanderbilt, they would interview him. I think that's just him giving his support for a Derek Mason. I'm not saying he'll be a DC at Alabama, but he is a great defense coordinator. He'll get a job easy, but I don't know if he's a great head coach. So I don't know. I was on the side of starting a new era in Vanderbilt, but I 100%. I don't think there's going to be any breaking news, any changes of the minds. I do believe that Derek Mason is the head coach, and as far as that's concerned, I mean, as a Vandy fan, I want him to turn it around. I don't want to go through another 3-9 season, but he's got a long ways to go. They've got a 4-star quarterback who's going to be an early enrollee for Vanderbilt. When they came out and said Derek Mason was going to be retained, he said, yes, I'm definitely staying. He's a 4-star quarterback from Texas. I think the only reason why he is staying committed and going to stay an early enrollee is because I think Derek Mason's telling him, look at our quarterbacks. You're going to be the starter. You're going to start at an SEC school as a true freshman. And I do think, I mean, I don't know a whole lot about the kid, but I think he's going to be better than Riley Neal, because being better than Riley Neal doesn't, in my personal opinion, doesn't take that much. So we'll see from that. They've got a lot to fix. They need a huge offseason. And I mean, I don't know. They're just going to have to find a way.
I did think the Keon Brooks kid ran well on
He's
Saturday.
a freshman, so he's got a lot of ways to grow. They lost Jamari Wakefield early in the year. He's a junior running back. I think he's got a red shirt this year, so he'll come back. He's pretty good. It's gonna have to be a running back by committee to replace a Keyshawn Vaughn, because on this stream I want to say thank you to Keyshawn Vaughn for when he transferred from Illinois, he's coming back to his home in Nashville, because he gave Vanderbilt fans a great 2 years. Just a stud of a running back. Would have broke probably every record Zach Stacy and Ralph Webb made if he was here for all 4 years. But replacing him is not going to be an easy task, but they're going to have to find a way to do it. That's for sure. Cleet Nippa comes in with a comment, says, the question is, who would you get as your head coach if you were one of those programs, not like Arkansas, Ole Miss, Missouri, and so on, are not big destinations? Yeah, I mean,
Arkansas. Chase says Arkansas, Mizzou, and Ole Miss are open. Which one is the best job? Who takes those jobs? I think that's a great question. If I'm Ole Miss, there's one guy I'm calling, and I'm not hanging up the phone until
are you saying Hugh Freeze?
No, I'm set. No,
I was about to say, I don't think you can go down that path again.
One guy I'm calling, I'm not hanging up till he says yes. It's Mike Norvell at Memphis. Memphis is a huge recruiting ground for Ole Miss. It always has been. They go into Memphis and they fight Mississippi State and Tennessee as well for recruits. He knows the area. He knows the high school coaches in the area. He's got great connections there.
I agree.
Mike Norvell, the Ole Miss job, I think
the Ole Miss job is the best job. While I kind of want to go towards Missouri simply because it's the East, I still think Ole Miss is the best job. What do you think?
Yeah, none of them are very good. As far as if they're all SEC jobs at the end of the day. If you're looking SEC, I don't think any of them are great. I kind of think Missouri is, and the reason I say that is because they don't have to fight as many SEC teams.
That's where I kind of go from that. Missouri's got a little bit easier path.
They don't have to fight as many SEC teams out in the Midwest for recruiting as some others do. I think Missouri and Ole Miss. Arkansas is not a bad job either.
Ole Miss is better though.
It's really, really, really bad shape right now.
Yeah.
But so I think that's probably third. If you're looking at it right now, if you're looking at it historically, Ole Miss is really, really bad. But just recently, I think Ole Miss and Missouri
talent, and boy, do they have a talented young quarterback who's got skills.
They do, and so if I'm Ole Miss, that's who I'm calling. If you look at the others, look at Missouri. I'm not sure where Missouri would go. If you're looking at I mean Norvell, in my opinion, should be a candidate at any of these places. If I'm Arkansas, why not call Lane Kiffin and see if he's ready to make the jump? That's always gonna be a controversial name. As far
Missouri
as
could just promote within and take old Dooley, give him a second shot.
They could do that. In all seriousness, their offense under Dooley has not been bad. So
I don't think that's where they go. That was 100% a joke with that one.
I don't think that they would either. Another name from Missouri that I've seen on Twitter was Brian Harsin. He's the head coach at Boise State. Midwest guy, maybe takes an SEC job. So that's an interesting one. As far as Arkansas goes, you could go a lot of different ways, but Arkansas is going to have to find somebody, number one, that wants a challenge. Because, like I said, they are in the worst shape of any SEC team.
Well, Cleet Nippa comes in saying Hughes Freeze to Arkansas, question mark?
Yeah, I just think that, it's the same as Ole Miss hiring him and I just don't think that it's. I think if somebody was going to hire Hugh Freeze, it would have happened already. Um, and outside of Liberty, so I don't really see Hugh Freeze getting a major head coaching job in college football yet. Now, eventually, could it happen? Sure, it could, but I don't see that one yet.
I do
For
think
our
Alabama's got a coach on their coaching staff that, lays brick by brick. I'm sure he would take another job.
now, Mike Leach at Arkansas is interesting. He was going to take the
I
Tennessee.
agree.
If they offered him the Tennessee job, he was going to take it. So I think that there's reason to believe that Mike Leach would potentially take the Arkansas job, and that's one of the guys that I think could turn it around the quickest. Now, I don't think Mike Leach is ever going to be a guy, if Arkansas hires him, that consistently competes with LSU and Alabama in the SEC West. But I 100% think that Mike Leach is a hire Arkansas could make to get Arkansas back to beating Mississippi State and Ole Miss
And
and,
being exciting because
and being
Arkansas fans need that right now. Hell,
yeah.
Vandy fans need that right now. I would load the truck up to see Mike Leach in Nashville, and I would listen to every press conference he would ever have in Nashville.
Yeah. And of course, the big name in Arkansas, as it was when they hired Chad Morris, is going to be Gus Malzahn. But he's an Arkansas guy, and they're going to want Gus Malzahn, and all the fans are going to want Gus Malzahn. If Gus Malzahn leaves Auburn for Arkansas, there's something going on at Auburn that we don't know about because he's out of his mind if he leaves Auburn to go to Arkansas. I don't care where he's from. So we'll see. Art
He could
Briles,
honestly just be, sick and tired of constantly with the rumors of him getting fired. He might just say, you know what, see you. But I don't see that.
yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
Clayton comes in with a comment saying Mike Leach can make the SEC media days fun, and 100% without a doubt, that's for sure. He also comes in with a comment of Art Briles. I think he's done. Do you ever see Art Briles taking another big job?
No, I think Art Briles is done. If you're talking about the younger Briles, his son, I can't think of his first name, but I mean that's the guy that you're going to talk about getting a job. It's not going to be Art. But then you talk about another name that I thought would be a great name for Vanderbilt. Um, if they went away from Derek Mason, would be Eli Drinkowitz. He's the head coach at Appalachian State. I think that would be a good hire for somebody, whether it's one of the SEC schools or somebody else.
He's done a lot of good stuff at Appalachian, that's for sure.
Bill Clark at UAB is an upcoming coach that you could look at. So, yeah, I mean, there's guys out there.
There's tons of DCs out there, tons of OCs out there. And, what I think we've kind of scratched the surface of is this needs to be a topic on the Coach Plays upcoming very soon. Maybe maybe after next week, after all the conference plays, or maybe later this week. I don't know. Me and you can sit down, have a discussion. We'll talk about all the job openings and all the hot candidates and where we think and where some of the best fits are. Maybe that's what one of our shows should be in the coming future.
Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of time to talk about this. Is kind of like a Titans draft and re-signing conversation. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the coaching carousel, but not as much time as we think because now with the early signing period, obviously
That's true.
So you're looking at middle of December is the early signing period. It's December 1. You're probably looking at these coaches getting hired in the next 2 weeks, realistically. So
That's very true. And all the topics
their season's over. Their season's over. They're not going to bowl games. Missouri was 6-6, but they have the bowl ban. And then obviously Arkansas not going to a bowl game. So their season's being over, they're able to go ahead and be looking already. I didn't know this. I thought it was interesting that Texas fired both coordinators. Apparently, I hadn't seen that.
I
Uh,
I thought I seen something about that, but
but that's big news.
yeah,
And I think that is turning in very quickly to a hire that everyone said was great. That is probably going to end in Texas finding a new head coach in the coming year. So
maybe. I still think he's got time to turn it around, and I mean, if he can make himself a good couple hires, I've watched a few Texas games this year. I'm a Texas fan, and they've got a lot of talent, but they need to do it because that's another place that out there, you know, 7-5 won't keep your job. That's for sure.
nope.
So they'll have to hit on that. But anyways, guys, this was a great stream. We're looking at an hour and 10 minutes. So thought we had some good conversations. Upcoming, we can kind of hit on what we're going to talk about later this week. We will have a pred stream soon. We'll talk about what's that?
Said sadly.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the Nashville Predators are just an average hockey team right now. Can they fix it? Can they turn it around? Yes. But as of right now, they're just an average hockey team, and that's pissing off a lot of people in Nashville. We'll have our discussions about the Preds. We'll preview the next Titans game with the Oakland Raiders. I believe that's who their next game is, so that's going to be a big one. And so we'll preview that, and we might also preview. We'll get in here and preview the SEC championship. That's going to be a big one with LSU Tigers versus Georgia Bulldogs. So we've got a lot of great shows, and like Coach Flack kind of hit on it. I mean, this thing has been a success from the start. It's been a great streams, and we're talking about future. We'll have streams about the Tennessee Titans, NFL draft, NFL free agency. We'll get into more broader topics. We'll talk SEC like we did today. We'll talk NFL. So I think this has been great so far. Appreciate everybody watching, and we are not going anywhere. What do you think, Coach Flatt?
Yep, we'll get in. We'll have all those conversations. Of course, we'll talk extensively about the college football playoff.
Yep.
And all that. So lots to talk about, and we'll be back midweek sometime to talk about. Maybe do like you said, a preview of the SEC championship and a recap of that. So, and then we'll talk about the Predators. This is a great time to talk about the Predators with no SEC games other than the championship to preview. And then we'll obviously get a preview for the Titans and Raiders. So, looking forward to it.
Yep, sounds good. We'll get off here. All you Tennessee Titans fans, keep rooting for the New England Patriots. Score update: the Houston Texans are winning 14-3. So, as far as Tennessee fans, it is not going the way we all want it. But Coach Flatt, appreciate you being on here again. We appreciate you being on here. Appreciate everybody watching. As always, guys, hit that like button when you come in here. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any of this content. And as always, when we're doing this stuff, hit that share button. Put it out there on your social media platforms. That way we can grow this conversation and get bigger and bigger. But guys, God bless you. And until next time, peace.